Today's Toy Spot, we're having a look at the NECA Toys Robocop vs. Terminator Endoskeleton Heavy Gunner. This is a single option figure if you wanted to get the endoskeleton on his own. He was also packaged in a 2-pack, which had a darker red and lighter blue color scheme. Spot's just having a look right now though at the single version, which is the Heavy Gunner. It comes with a ton of extra guns. I'm looking forward to getting this guy out of packaging, and still carries over that video game treatment that NECA is doing to this line. Down below we have a picture of the endoskeleton, and once again Robocop has now been completely blocked off. It just says versus the Terminator. The back of the package, however, shows the Heavy Gunner endoskeleton with the completed minigun that he comes included with. And a readout says, in the crumbling ruins of a world under siege, man-machine meets machine-man as legendary cyborgs clash to decide the fate of the Earth. To check out the other pieces that NECA Toys are producing, you guys can head over to www.necaonline.com. Spot's going to take a break and get this opened up, and when we come back, we're going to get a better look at the Robocop vs. Terminator Endoskeleton Heavy Gunner. Don't go anywhere, guys. Stay tuned. NECA once again has shown that you can take a figure that we've probably all collected during our collection days, and by adding a simple paint to it, has excelled this figure to a really cool new level. I'll touch base on the figure first in a second actually, but before we do that, I just want to show you guys the other accessories that he comes included with. For starters, for the gun turret, you got yourself a little display stand, a little tripod stand. When you get this out of packaging, one of the legs is removed and you just peg it into place. I've already taken the liberty of pegging it into place. The minigun doesn't actually look like it clips anywhere onto the stand. Instead, it actually just sits. It really sits on top of the display stand. I don't see any connector points at all where this, because as you can see, the stand top only just has a groove to it, so it sits just against the barrel of the gun like that. The gun also is painted in that same purple color as the stand, with a little bit of silver treatment, a little gray treatment there. Silver on the ends of the minigun, which also doesn't rotate or anything like that. It's got like a dark rusted red color, a little bit of the gray there also by there, but it looks really neat. The ammunition belt doesn't have as much paint to it. It's got still that little bit of red, but then they've trimmed the end of it in that same light gray that's on the barrel of the gun. The other end of it is his backpack, little peg points there, and you can take that, flip around the endoskeleton, and this just pegs right into those holes there, just like that. You gotta line it up ever so gingerly and just peg it into place like that. The gun itself is a little harder for the endoskeleton to hold. He really only has the one hand closed perfectly to hold it. I say perfectly, but closed as best as it could to hold it. But it sits a little loose. You can do your best to adjust the other hand here to kind of just get a grip, slight grip on the top of the handle of the minigun to get something like that. Or, of course, you would go then to the turret and you would just prop it on top of the turret, just like that. That's kind of really more so how it is in the game. It just kind of sits. He's just a gunner, so he stands next to the gun turret. I wish they could have clipped it or something like that in place, but with a little bit of adjusting, you can get the endoskeleton to just have the gun sitting on top of that. Removing this out of his hand, and we'll just unpeg this on the back of endoskeleton. Just put that to the side. The figure itself I like. I'm trying to actually gauge which figure because NECA has released a couple of endoskeletons, and some of them have had slight tweaks to one another. It kind of looks like it maybe could be the battle-damaged endoskeleton, but the paint is really what impresses me. I guess by a base coat, the base coat is this dark gray. That dark gray is head to toe, but then over top of the gray, depending on what sections of the Terminator there is, it's either been painted over top with a little bit of like a purpley gray, a little bit of the lighter gray, more lighter gray when you start getting to the head area, and then just like limbs, legs, arms, that continue that darker gray, but then they've got little light swipes there, just giving it that indication of a reflection. I really like this piece. Somehow, just by sheer fact of adding that paint to the face, I don't know, it kind of gives it a creepier look than what he had before. The original endoskeleton looked amazing with that metallic silver, but there's something about that lighter gray that makes it gives it that scarier look than he had before. I won't lie to you though, the piece is a little more fragile, especially like around the torso section here. Limbs are much smaller than a standard action figure, so you have to be a little more careful when moving limbs. Just for a scale comparison though, we'll just put the endoskeleton right there. Let's reach off camera. Let's bring in the T800 so you guys can see the size difference between the two. The endoskeleton, I think, roughly is about the same height as the T800. A little more spindly, just due to really that this would be inside this. I'll just move that out of the way. Oh, and also for another comparison, let's bring in Robocop. There's the two right there. I think this is one thing I've always wanted to do, and somewhat to that extent I have done it. When I got the Robocop, the initial Robocop from NECA, I already had a couple of endoskeletons and geeked out for a little bit. I had Robocop, against the Terminator on my shelf. I might even do that again now, just now that I've got them in like a video game treatment. Just move him off camera there. For your articulation on the endoskeleton, like I said, he does have a pretty good amount, but you have to be careful when moving things. For example, his head does rotate, but because his head is attached by all these little pistons, you gotta be careful moving it. You don't want to move it too much that any of these do snap off on you. Shoulders kind of are that same idea. They have a little more flexibility to them than I would say the neck and head does. That they hinge out and they rotate forward, but be careful when you move it that you don't pop this hose or rip this hose off. Swivel in the bicep. The endoskeleton also has a hinge in the elbow, a swivel in the wrists. This section right here, it rotates, but it doesn't rotate and lock into any one spot. It just kind of sits loosely. As you rotate it though, you see the pistons here in the waist start moving in and out. A nice touch. Then when it comes to his legs hinge out. They move forward, but this really is problematic, this section right here. Moves forward and moves back, but you don't really get to move it too much just because of all these extra pieces. He has the hinge in the knee, just a single bend at the knee, and then he has a swivel in the foot, and that little ever so appreciated hinge right at the foot, or the toe area of the foot area. Having now looked at all the Robocop vs. Terminator figures in the single cards, makes me think I want to go and get the 2-pack. It's remarkable though that NECA could take an existing figure, and they're very good at doing this, taking an existing figure and by adding another paint wash to it, can give us a really brand new, fresh take on the figure. There's something about this figure that I love because of all the extra paint and differences that they've done to this versus the original. He's a little fragile, yes. Really, for that matter, all endoskeletons, for that matter, are kind of fragile because of the way that they're constructed. But NECA really nailed this. Nailed taking an existing figure and just giving it so much new life to it. The endoskeleton, I'm going to give him an 8.5. 8.5 to the endoskeleton. Today's toy spot We're having a look at the NECA toys, Robocop versus Terminator. We're having a look tonight at the Terminator gun turret version. Or I guess he's called the Heavy Gunner. Just give him the pose properly there. There we go. Thanks for watching as you always do, guys. Certainly stay tuned. Spot's going to have lots more videos heading your way. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.